The Bank of France has upgraded its quarterly growth forecast, believing it will grow 0.5% in the final quarter of this year. The bank's business sentiment survey increased to a 2-year high. I have Dominique Barbet from BNP Paribas in Paris on the line. So Dominique, were you surprised by this survey, and what were the main areas that have seen major improvements?
First of all, it's some sort of a surprise because we had other surveys which were not so good. The INSEE survey is more kind of flat over the past few months, and the PMIs are actually pointing towards a recession in France. So we've got major differences. And if you look at the Bank of France, the survey you mentioned is the survey for industry, which has been quite robust in the past few months. But the survey for services has been very poor. It has declined 1 point. While industry increased 1 point, services have declined 1 point in the month of November, and now is at 92. So it's a little bit surprising to see that the Bank of France model is expecting GDP to increase 0.5%, given that industry is pretty small in terms of share of total value added. Manufacturing is just 10%, and services, on the contrary, are up to 79% of the French economy. Although we can obviously we know that the bulk of the volatility is coming from industry, and that there's much less volatility in services. So that industry is one important driver of the economy, more important than just the share of GDP it represents. It's still somewhat some sort of a surprise to see that Bank of France is forecasting growth at 0.5%. They had a pretty strong forecast for the previous quarter as well, when INSEE actually published a decline in GDP. So maybe the truth about the economic outlook is in between this solid growth that Bank of France is predicting and the recession that the PMIs are pointing to, because definitely PMIs are poor economic indicators for the French economy. So I wouldn't read too much in the business surveys. I mean, we've got lots of mixed indicators, and so I would remain cautious. I think the economy is still on something very close to no growth, and doing ups and downs, and this may remain so up to the first quarter of next year. Maybe we can regain a stronger economic growth, but probably not before the second quarter of next year.
And speaking about all the challenges facing the country, unemployment climbed the highest in 16 years in the third quarter. Now, François Hollande failed to keep his promise of bringing down unemployment by the end of this year. So what sort of initiatives have the government already implemented? And do you think we will continue to see the rate rise next year, or will some of the reforms actually be successful?
Yes, I think the unemployment once again we've got different sources of information, and the unemployment increase you mentioned refers to INSEE data for the third quarter. Actually, we've got also the October figures, which has been published by the Ministry of Labour, and we had a decline in the level, the headline figure of number of job seekers. So maybe the president will finally be able to keep his promise of getting the unemployment down at the very end of the year. The Eurostat unemployment rate for October is also down versus September. So there is some improvement there. We do have some, of course, some positive effect from economic stabilization and the end of the mild recession we had previously around the year-end and start of year-end 2012 and start of this year. Situation is stabilized, and the economy is maybe on a trend, on a very slightly upward trend. At least it's not in recession anymore.
Dominique, thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking to you today. Well, viewers, do stay tuned as we have plenty more coming up. See you soon.